create this fun album, I'm going to be using my design team package from Country Craft Creations that I received recently. This is the Heartfelt Creations Home on the Farm 12 by 12 paper collection. You get 24 double-sided papers. There's 2 sheets of each design. So I'm not going to go through them all here. If you're wanting to see it in detail, I will put a video box at the end of this video that links to the showcase video or the walkthrough of this design team package. But as you can see, it's got a lot of wonderful papers here. Also in that package, I received the Lilac Lane, 28 Lilac Lane embellishment buttons from Buttons Galore and more. So this is the Harvest, I believe. No, it's Gratitude. Sorry. This was the Gratitude one. And I will link all these below if they're still available. I'm going to be using the Farmhouse Summer Cartabella windmill die and this Silver Country Craft Creations paper. I'm sorry about the shininess here, but that's what I'm going to plan on using to make my windmill. I also picked up some of the red gingham check satin ribbon. And for this project, I will be using the 12 by 12 artisan cardstock. I picked up a whole pack of the artisan craft colored cardstock, so you'll want that. And then I know definitely will use 1 sheet of the 12 by 12 heavyweight chipboard. Of course, I will use my art glitter glue, possibly some score tape to make the assembly of the album wrapping a little bit easier, and some Scotch tape. I got me a new dispenser for my Scotch tape here. Really cute little dispenser. And I probably will be using some magnets, and I like to use the basic gray from Country Craft Creations, either the small that you see here or the large, which I don't have a full pack of that, but I'll be using probably some magnets in there, as well as this ribbon for my closures of my album. So let's get started. First, we need to make our album cover. Now, I'm going to give you the measurements of what you need to wrap and cut for your cover. You have your chipboard, your heavyweight chipboard, and your craft cardstock. Now, I'm not going to be showing you in this video how to make the cover. I'm going to link up above. You can see a link up there. Click on that. It will take you to a separate video where I show you how to make the lay flat album cover designed by Tamara of Country Craft Creations. This is a video that I did. It shows how I do mine, or you can go and find hers and follow that. But you will use these measurements, so it's really important that you use these measurements that I'll also be giving you in the cutting guide and giving you here in the video before you go off and click on the lay flat album cover video. And then once you get your album assembled and wrapped, then you come back to this video and we'll start working on the album. So you're going to need, for the 6.5 inch album, you're going to need 2 heavyweight chipboard pieces that are 6 by 8.5. These are your front and back cover. And your spine is going to be 2 inches wide by 8.5. So you only need 1 of this. So this is your chipboard that you will need. To wrap these, you're going to need 2 of your craft cardstock that are 8 by 10.5 for this cover wrap. And for your spine wrap, you're going to need 1 that is 5 by 10.5. And then for the inside, to support that spine, you're going to need 1 cardstock that is 6 by 8.5. And I cut it down just a hair below the 8.5. So I've got that minus sign there. Cut you 1 piece of the score tape sheet, same size. Or if you want to use solid strips of score tape, that's fine also. But for this section, we don't use the art glitter glue. So I'm going to go ahead and go assemble mine, and I'll be back here showing you my assembled album cover. Okay, so we have our album cover put together using the lay flat wrapping assembly method. So now we're ready to add some pattern paper to the front and to the inside. So I'm going to open this up and lay it flat, and that's the greatness about this method, because you can lay it flat. Now I have chosen the the 4A sheet of the pattern paper, and I cut 2 pieces that are 5 7/8 wide by 8 3/8 tall for the front cover. So I have cut from the 4A sheet of pattern paper from the collection, 2 pieces that are 5 7/8 wide by 8 3/8 tall. This will give us a slight border of the craft showing. And then I cut from the other direction, so you just use one sheet. I cut one that is 2 inches wide by 8 3/8 tall. So this is going to go here. So I'm going to glue these on right quick. And I did ink the edges with my archival ink in the coffee with my brush applicator. So I went around all the edges already on that. So let's glue that on. Okay, so there's the outside of our album cover with the barn scene on the front, plaid here, and this on the back. For the inside, I used another piece of the 12 by 12 sheet 4A, but I'm going to use the plaid on this. So I cut this a little bit different. I did ink the edges on all of it. So you're going to cut 2. Now I cut them 6 inches wide by 8 1/2 tall, but I trimmed it down just a tiny bit smaller than 6 wide and shorter than 8 1/2, just to make this a full coverage but not go over anywhere. And did the same here. This is the 8 1/2 tall, just trimmed it down just a tiny bit, like 1/32, not even a 1/16 of an inch. And then this is at 2 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these in. And so we're using the plaid side on this sheet. Okay, so we've got this one in, the inside done. And next we're going to start working on the 2 inside covers. First, the elements that I want to put in that inside our cover here, and then we'll work on some pages. So that's ready now. So I'll go ahead and start cutting, and in your cutting guide I will have the measurements for what I'm building up in here, and also give them to you on the video. To create what I'm calling mini accordion albums for the inside, front and back covers, you need 2 sheets of artisan cardstock. I have the craft, and I'm going to cut 4 pieces that are 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. So I'm going to cut that out of, I'm going to cut 2 of them out of 1 piece here. So cut 2 that are 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. This is for one side. Save this scrap, this in your scraps. Set it aside, and then take this piece here. From this large piece here, I'm going to cut down to 4 1/2 wide. I'm going to save this for another area in an album. And then we're going to cut this one down to 6 1/2. And you can or keep that or throw that away if you want. So this is for one folder that we're going to make. So then we take the second piece and we cut again. We cut 2 4 1/2. This piece here, and cut it 4 1/2. And cut 2 of those. So that leaves us with this piece to save for Matt. And then we take this and we turn it and cut the 4 1/2 here. Make sure it's lined up. Okay, 4 1/2. Save this nice square and turn and cut at 6 1/2. Right here. Okay, so we have 2 that are 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. And then we have 4 that are 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. Next we have our scoreboard, and we take the 4 4 1/2, and on just one 4 1/2 inch side we're going to score it a 1/2 inch scoot over and score at 3/4. So do that on all 4. You just want the 2 score lines like that. So put 4.5 in at the top, score at 1/2 inch and 3/4, and do that on all 4. Okay, so let's move the scoreboard out of the way. And I am going to use a scallop punch. So you just take 2 of these, line them up, and the edge opposite from your score lines on each corner, do a scallop punch or whatever decorative punch you want. So this, we have 2 like this, so we're going to go ahead and fold our score lines and burnish. Just like that, so that you have that 1/4 inch space like that. Got your 1/2 inch here on the back. Do that same on both of them. Okay, we got that. So these are the top of our folder, and then we'll go ahead and score and burnish these 2 as well. And we'll leave them squared like that. Okay, so now we're going to take the 4.5 by 6.5, and we're going to attach one to the bottom like that, and then one with the scalloped to the top, so that it's the same. So I'm going to 6.5. So fold this down, put your glue on the 1/2 inch on the back, and then line this up right along the edge, the fold, right along the cut edge here. Burnish that. So you have that one there, and then you take this one and do the same thing. Flatten it down. You've got the one with the scallop. Flatten it down. Just put glue on the 1/2 inch. Turn this and glue this on the bottom here on this other edge, right along the cut edge. Okay. Burnish that. And when you straighten these up, straighten up your little 1/4 inches here, so you have a folder that looks like that for photos. And we'll be putting an accordion in there. So go ahead and do the other one the exact same way. So the scallop one goes on the top, and the squared one goes underneath like that. So now we have 2 of these, one for each side of our album cover, and I'm ready to show you how to make fold-out album pages on the inside. So we'll go ahead and cut those in just a second. For our 2 folders that we just made, we're going to put 4 pages in each one, so that's a total of 8 that we're going to make. 4 pages put in accordion style like this. So I've already done one, and I will show you how to do the other. So it folds up like that. This is what's going to go in the front, and one's going to go in the back. So you're going to cut from 2 pieces for each folder. So you need a total of 4 12 by 12 cardstock. You're going to cut 8 pieces that are 5 inches wide by 6.5, just under 6.5. So you back it off a little bit in your trimmer on all 8 of them. So you have 4 for each one. The reason why you cut it down just a little bit smaller when you line it up, you want to make sure they fit right in here. If you cut it exactly at 6.5, you may go over. And so you have to kind of dry fit to make sure it's going to fit in between those score lines, those 2 inner score lines. Okay? So these are all cut at 5. Then you're going to score all 8 of them on the 5-inch side at a 1/2 inch. And like I said, you need 4 for each folder. So I've already done one set, so I'm doing the last 4 here. So you did cut 8 that were 5 inches wide by I would say 5 and 15, not 15, at 6.5. So that's, I'd have to look on the ruler. Hang on a second. Score this at a 1/2 inch right quick. So let me look at this ruler here. 6.5, we back it up. So you cut it at 5 and 7/16. So you back it up just a little bit. So it's not quite 6.5. I hope that makes sense. So you see the 6.5 here, one tick underneath to make it not a full 6.5, because it will go over your score lines if you don't do that right. So make sure you dry fit. Then go ahead and fold your score lines and burnish. Just like this. So I have 4 for this folder that I haven't completed yet. Okay. Now then, you take one, you have your fold here, fold it under, take the second one, and you're going to attach this 1/2 inch to the side that doesn't have the fold. So you're going to attach it right there. I'm going to put glue on the 1/2 inch on the back side. Take the fold and line it up along the cut edge. Make sure you line them up nice and straight all the way around and burnish that down. So now we have the 1/2 inch here. We have it attached here on this side at the 1/2 inch. So now we want to attach one to this one. So open it up. We take our 1/2 inch, put the glue on that back side, take the fold of this one and put it along the cut edge of the one you just put on. So it's a fold to a cut edge. And make sure it lines up, because you want it folding right. And burnish that. Then open this one up. Burnish on the inside. Open it up. Put the last one the same way. Put your glue on your 1/2 inch on the back side. Put the fold here along the cut edge of the one you just put on. Make sure they line up. And open it up and burnish. Wipe off any glue you have. Okay. Now then, when this folds up, you have this 1/2 inch here still available. And then what I did is take this one here that's already done. I want it opening into the right. I want it opening to the right like this top one. Okay, so I accidentally turned off the video instead of just hitting pause when my air conditioner came on. I do that because it's really noisy. And I didn't show you putting this in, so I've taken it off so that I can re-show you. Now, you have this, and only do this if you're using artisan cardstock, because other cardstocks won't hold up when you remove it with the glue. So on this 1/2 inch that's remaining, go ahead and put your glue on the back side of your 1/2 inch. So I'm putting quite a bit of glue here. Okay. And then take this, so you have the hinge of the 1/2 inch, and you want to line it up. You've got your scallop up here at the top, right here. You're going to line it up so that the bottom is within, not over the score line of that little 1/4 inch, and you want to make sure it's the same at the top, and then lined up right here on this edge. I've got a lot of glue, so I'm just going to wipe that off. And then we burnish it in. So you've got to make sure it is staying right on the edge here and within. You don't want to cover up your 1/4 inch space. Once you have that in position, then burnish it down. Wipe off any excess glue you might have. Burnish that down. fold this up and then open it to the inside, burnish, and then wipe off your glue here. So now we have the page in, and it should fit within that section so that when this folds up, we have that. Now, while the camera was turned off, I did put my magnets in. So I'm using the really small, magnet disc from Basic Gray from Country Craft Creations. You need 2 sets. You need 2 pluses and 2 minus. What I did is I put 1/2 here, about 1/4 inch from the top in the center, taped it over, matched it up, and then taped that on the other side. So you just put your magnets in like that. I do use this tape, the clear tape, gift wrap tape, to kind of seal off the edges of the magnets. And if you're putting your pattern paper on right away, you might not have to do that, but I still like to do that. So we have both of those done. Now we're ready for the patterned paper. I've cut some of the patterned paper for my little booklets here, little folders, from the sheet that is 3B, which is this back of this one here. You got cut parts on one side. It's the one with the dog. I'll show you just a second. I used 1 sheet of 3B and 1 sheet of the 1B with the roosters on it. I've already cut up the 3B, so I can't show you that one. You're going to want to cut 4 that are 4 3/8 wide by 3 5/8 tall, and you will need to scallop punch the 2 bottom corners. So you're going to lay these out and make sure you got your directions of your paper going right. You want 4 that are 4 3/8 wide by 3 5/8 that are just left with no punch. Okay, and then you need 4 that are 4 3/8 wide by 6 1/4 tall, and I've only cut 1 so far. I haven't decided on my paper yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed up the camera, and I'm going to go ahead and ink and glue these that I do have cut down. So I'm doing, you want 2 with the scallops, 1 for the outside, 1 for the inside here, like this. And I want this with the wood grain or the barn flap here, and then I have 2 here on the bottom, and then I have this 1 piece that I have cut. I haven't decided on the others yet. So this with the dog goes on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up the camera and ink and glue my pattern pieces down. Yours may be different that you decide to use on yours, and that's fine. Just look at your papers and pick the ones and pay attention to your pattern directions to make sure that you are not covering, that you are punching the right corners. So I'm going to go ahead and use my glue and speed up the camera now and do what glue down what I have cut so far. Now on the inside of here, I ended up using my colors. I used 2 sheets of the crisp green, the 12 by 12 crisp green that you can order from Country Craft Creations. I'll show you inside in just a second. And I used 1 sheet of the 12 by 12 Sun Glow. So like in this one, you open it up. Here on this side, where the 1/2 inch hinge seam is, I wanted to hide those. So I'm going to leave this craft. This one I wanted matted. So I added in 2 of the green, the crisp green here on this side, and then I added in 1 of the Sun Glow here on this side, like that. And the other one is exactly the same. So you end up cutting 4 out of the green and 2 out of the yellow, if that is what you want to do to mat inside, because I do think you need to cover those 1/2-inch joints where we assembled this inside our book. And then I'm leaving these craft. And you could add a different color photo mat if you wanted to on those. But so that's what I've got for now. And now I'm ready to put them in the book. So we're going to open up our cover here on the plaid side. This is the inside. This is the outside of mine. Move this out of the way. Open this up. And so these are going to glue right down into our cover. We're going to center them just like that. So it's going to be, I'm going to do one side. They're about, this is 6 and this is 4.5. So we want about 3/4 on each side, thereabouts. And so I'm just going to eyeball mine. Now on the back side here, I'm going to put all my glue down. And then I'm just going to turn it over and very carefully look. I didn't want any pencil marks. And I'm going to stand up so that I can kind of see it pretty good and get it in there nice and straight like that. Go ahead and hold it down and open this up so that I can burnish right here on the inside far back. So you want to make sure that it sticks down good. And then this one folds up and the magnets hold it in place. And then we're going to put this other one on the same way. For our base pages, we're going to make base 3 pages with the L hinge. So I'm going to take 2 sheets of 12 by 12 cardstock in the craft color. And I'm going to cut 3 that are 6 by 8. So I'm going to cut 1 sheet in half. That's 6. Take this one and cut it down to 8. Save this piece for mats later. Cut this one down to 8 as well. So we have 2 pages cut so far. Okay, we take the second piece of the 12 by 12 cardstock. We're going to cut that down to 6 again. Save this piece. We'll use it on our flap. Cut this down to 8. So now we have 3. Save this one for our mat. We have 3 6 by 8s. We'll score those in a minute. These will be our pages. For side flaps, we want 2 that are 5 3/4 by 8. So we're going to take this one that's left. It's a 6-inch. We're going to cut it down to 5 3/4. And you can throw this little strip away. Turn it and cut it at 8. And again, save our mat. Take another sheet of your 12 by 12 craft cardstock. We're going to cut this down to the 5 3/4. We're going to save this piece 5 3/4 wide, turn it and cut it at 8. We have a mat piece here, and we have the 2 side page flaps. We'll put those right there. Then we want a top page flap. We need one that's 5 1/2 by 6 3/4. So we just cut our 6 3/4 here. Save this one for a mat. Turn and cut this down to 5 1/2. We only need one of these. And you probably won't need this, so I'm going to go ahead and throw mine away. So now let's take our 3 base pages, which are your 6 by 8s. You're going to put your 6-inch at the top, and you're going to score at a 1/2 inch on all 3. And this is making our L hinge that will go into the spine of the album cover. So you can go ahead and fold and burnish these if you like. those aside. Okay, and next we'll do our side page flaps. So you have 2 of those, which are your 5 3/4 by 8. We're going to put the 5 3/4 in at the top. We're going to score at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 on both. 1/2 inch, 3/4. Just make sure your 5 3/4 is at the top. Then go ahead and fold and burnish both score lines, which will give us a 1/4 inch space gusset and the 1/2 inch tab. So go ahead and score these so that you have a 1/4 inch here. So you have your 2 side flaps, and then the last one we take is our top page flap, 5 1/2 by 6 3/4. Put your 6 3/4 in at the top. Score at a 1/2 inch and 3/4. And go ahead and fold both of those score lines and burnish. And this will create a top flap for one of the pages. For the gusset pocket, the correct size that you should have cut is 7 inches by 2 3/4. I corrected that on the cutting guide, or have it correct on the cutting guide. Put your 7 inch side in at the top, score at a 1/2 inch, 3/4, and then skip over and score at 6 1/4 and 6 1/2. Turn it so that your 2 3/4 is at the top. Score at 1/2 inch and 3/4. Then take your scissors and fold on your 3/4 score lines like that, and on the bottom. And then you're going to, where that fold is, you're going to cut along those 3/4 inch score lines. So you're cutting away your 1/4 inch space and your 1/2 inch space just in the bottom corner here, like this. And then this, when we fold it up with the 1/4 inch score line, that will give you a 1/4 inch gusset, like box-like shape for your little pocket. And then that will go with your top flap like that on a page. Okay, and we'll have a tag that we'll make that will hold that in place in the album. So next we're ready to go ahead, and I'll plan my pattern pages and the assembly of these base pages. And if we need to make extra flaps, then we'll come back with our trimmer and our craft paper, and I will give you all of that if I decide that we need more of those different areas in our album. First, we're going to work on page set 1 on the front side. So this is page set 1. This is the one that we cut out and folded with a 1/2 inch tab. So grab one page set, a base page for page set 1, and then you're going to need one of your side flaps that you made that has the 1/4 inch gusset space here. So this is what's going to assemble like this. But I want to add in some extra flaps. So I took this larger piece of cardstock. You should have one left. If not, you'll need another full sheet. And we're going to cut this we're going to make 2 that are 5 1/2 by 8. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this and cut the 8 inch here. That leaves me this long strip here. I'll save that. Turn this and cut 2 5 1/2. Okay. 1 and 2. Now then, we need to score these. I didn't cut all the way up at the top here. So we need to score these so they have a 1/2 inch attachment flap. I'll move this out of the way and grab my scoreboard. And we're going to put the 5 1/2 inch side at the top, and we're going to score just at 1/2 inch. on both of these pieces. We're going to add our patterned paper before we actually put any of our page sets into the book. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Fold that score line. Here and here. Now these are flat flaps, whereas your other one has a little 1/4 inch gusset. Okay, so let's grab our base piece. So this is the one that is, when you've got your 1/2 inch opened up, this is your one that is 6 inches wide by 8. And these two, when your hinge is opened out, is 5.5 by 8. So you have two like that. So this is your base. This is your wider one. And then this is your little gusset flap here. So you're on this one. We should be able to fit that in right there and not hinder the score line of our 1/4 inch. I have a little raggediness here. I changed out my blade, but they're brand new to open the package, but I'm still getting a little bit of raggedness on this. So I'm just double checking this to make sure we're going to keep our 1/4 inch. Okay, so it looks like it should be, I'm measuring this, this should be 5 in here. Yeah, so this is going to be an exact fit. So let's take our base page here. This is the one that when it's opened up is 6 inches wide. Double checking that. We're going to put this one with the 1/4 inch space. We're going to put that here on the right side. So I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to put glue just on the 1/2 inch section here. There'll be no glue on that little 1/4 inch. And I'm going to take this and attach this. I'm going to flatten down my 1/4 inch so I can see where I'm going. And I'm going to put this right along the cut edge. So you want the fold of this flap right along the cut edge of your base page on the right. So you've got your hinge over here on the left and this right here. So then we're going to burnish that with your bone folder. And then you can stand this back up for your 1/4 inch little gusset there right on the edge. So that should be straight right there. And you are going to have this extra space right here. Okay? See that? Because I didn't want this rubbing into that right there. Now we open this up. We're going to take these add-on flaps. And this one here is going to go right here. Now if you feel that it might be going into this little 1/4 inch a little bit, you can trim off just a smidge, just a tiny, tiny bit, because we want this to be right at 5 or less. So see there, we've got just like a 1/16 of an inch that we can cut off. To make this not overextend. So you just cut off a tiny, tiny bit, okay, on that flap. That goes on the inside of the flap we just added. It's going to go to the inside here. So you put your glue on your 1/2 inch here. You're going to line the fold right along the straight edge of the flap opened up. Make sure it's straight. Burnish that down. So now we have our page here with a hinge. We have this flap that folds in, and this one folds over it like that. Now we want to add this one. So we're going to open it all back up. And this one is going to go right here along the edge of the page over here, the bigger base page. So we don't have any problems with it here on the inside. So you put your glue on your 1/2 inch attachment hinge back here, the fold of the hinge of the flap. You fold your page hinge under. You have a fold over here, and we're going to line this up, one fold up against the other. So make sure that everything is straight here on the bottom, here on the sides, and burnish that down. So this completes the front of your page set one on the front side, and we're going to add our pattern paper. So I'm going to get those cut, and then I'll show you what I'm doing, and then also I will decide on a closure here for this one. So I've picked out my papers for the front side of my page set 1, and I've inked all of them. I've cut them and inked them, and I'll show you what I use. Now I used 3 sheets from the collection, the 12 by 12 sheets. I used 1 sheet of 5B, 1 sheet of 9B, and 1 sheet of 11B. Of course, I've got scraps from those. So here for the front, now I planned my cut so that I just barely cut off the tail of the little goat, and so cut off a little bit of the ear of the cow. So you just plan your layout the way you want it. So this piece here is 4 7/8 wide, and they're all going to be the 7 7/8 tall, except for the one where I've added in a pocket. So cut this one. Then when you open this up, you have this one is the same size again, the 4 7/8, and then here on this inside flap with this red color is the 4 7/8. Let me double check, make sure I'm telling you right. 4 and, let's see, making sure. Yes, 4 7/8 on that one. It's kind of hard to tell when they're clipped on. So that's those 3 pieces there. Then for this, when you open this up, I wanted to piece this. So this was left over from cutting this. And I cut 2 pieces down to 3/4 inches wide. So I got the height. These 2 green ones are 4 inches wide by 7 7/8. This wider one here is your 5 3/8 wide by 7 7/8. So that's what we have there. And then I already showed you this one. Here I'm going to do a pocket so that I could use up some of those scraps. Okay. And I have here a small piece of the ribbon that I got in my design team package. It's about 2 inches, 2-inch piece, because I'm going to put a pull here. Let's do this pocket piece first, because what I did is from the scraps. Now this piece here is your 4 1/8 tall by 4 7/8 wide. That's that cloud piece left over from one of the pieces. And then this piece of red is your 4 7/8 wide by 3 3/4 tall, because I cut it to fit this piece of cardstock. Now this is from the scraps that I had, and it is cut. I cut it down to 5 inches wide to fit in here. It was just a little over 5, and the height of it was already cut at 3 7/8. So I'm going to make a pocket out of that, and I'm going to show you how to make a gusset on this pocket since it's flat, and I want a little room in here. So from the scraps, I cut 2 pieces that are 3/4 wide by the 3 7/8 tall. And I'm going to you can use your scoreboard, but really it doesn't matter. Just fold this in half, okay, and burnish. Doesn't matter which side shows, because you're not going to see this. So you have the print on the one side and the red on the other. So just going to fold this up like this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my blue down first. So this fits right in here. Now pay attention to your score line. You don't want to go into this 1/4 inch gusset here, but you do want to go over your 1/2 inch hinge here, but not over the fold line of the flap. So I'm taking my glue. I've already inked all these, like I said. Hold on a second. I got clogged up here. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this top one down first. Just put it here, making sure. It's kind of hard to hold it up so you can see. But you're not going over your folds. Okay, line that up at the top and go ahead and burnish that down. Okay, and then we're going to make our pocket here. I'm going to check this and see. It shouldn't stick out over. If it does, I'll just trim it off. So you put glue on 1/2 of this little hinge and take the fold and put it on the outer edge of this piece of cardstock. I am not putting one on the bottom. That's going to be flat down there. So just like that. And then this one the same way. The fold goes to the outer edge. So this is the back side of the pocket with this chipboard piece. Okay, so then we take this. We're going to fold these in. I'm going to put glue on the folded, on the other side of this hinge. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little glue across the bottom edge right there. And we're going to keep these folded down, and we're going to line this up between the score lines and line this bottom of this chipboard along the bottom of this section of the album here, right in here. Burnish those down. What that does, it makes a flat pocket, but this is sticking out a little bit too far. It's going to give us, there we go, refold that a little bit. It's going to give us a little space in there so that it's, you know, gives us some wiggle room in there so that things are easier to slide in and out. Okay, and it's flat here on the bottom. Then I take this pattern piece and I'm going to glue it right down onto that section. And then later we'll add some tags and mats into the pocket. So that is how we did a pocket right there. So we've got that inside. Let's flip this over here. Oops, back to the front. That piece there. I'm going to clip these. I'm going to lay these out so I can see what I'm doing. This goes here. Let's go ahead. Now we want to put our piece on first. So I've got some little cricket here. Okay. Now, this closes this way. So this is the front here for this piece. So this is where I want the pull to go. So here on the first flap, I have this 2-inch piece of ribbon, and I'm going to put a little glue on it and glue them together, fold it in half like this. I'm just using my art glitter glue. And then right here in the center, I'm going to put some glue and put this down. I'm using glue because I want to make sure it's strong, and I'm positioning it so it doesn't stick way out beyond the page, okay? And then I'm going to take some tape, and then I'm going to tape it on as well. So you could use score tape or your gift wrap tape like I'm doing. I'm just going to tape that on like that, okay? So that's that front page flap, and then this is going to go right over that, okay? And then we're also going to add a magnet, so I'll show you that. before you do all your patterned paper. So pay attention, make sure you get the magnet on before in some sections before you actually glue the patterned paper down. So we get this one on here and line that up and burnish it over that ribbon. So this is going to give us our little pull here. Now I want the magnet. I'm going to use the little ones. I have a plus and a minus. I'm going to open this back. I'm going to move this one. Okay. So I want the magnet to be here in the area of this flap pull, ribbon pull. Okay, so pull my backing off. And I'm going to put it right in there, about 3/4 of an inch from the edge. And then I'm going to take my tape and put that on there, secure that, and then place this one on top, pull the backing off, and then we're going to close this up, square up this little 1/4 inch here so that it's standing up, and line these up, press it down, lift up. So there's our magnet. Let's put some tape on that as well. And then we can put this paper down here, which is going to be a continuation there. Now what I'm going to be doing is just putting the pattern papers down, the magnets and the ribbon pull, but not actually adding in any mats or decorating yet. Okay, so get that on there. We burnish that. So that's what that looks like with that on there. So we open this up so we can continue finishing this here. So this is going to go here. And this one goes inside, I believe. Okay, so this I've got to see. I wasn't thinking about the magnet there. With this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the red one here so I have a solid cover for the magnet. So it's going to look a little different than what I had laid out. But I think it'll be okay. So we want to make sure that magnet is covered. So cover this up. Cut it pretty good. Okay. Burnish. Then we'll open this up. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this one match up over here. So this one's going to go here. And then we'll put this one here on this side. So this goes to the inside. And we almost have the front side of our page set 1 finished, patterned. Okay, so we have this one on here, and then this little strip goes right there. And then this last one here in the main section, just make sure your pattern paper is not going over your folds of your flap. It's a little hard to see sometimes, so just pay close attention. Glue. Okay. I'm going to hold this up so I can kind of see better. I don't want it to go over that 1/4 inch there on the side either. So we've got a 1/4 inch space right there. So that's what makes it look a little off there, but we want to make sure we don't cover that up. Okay, so there's all that on the inside. So this folds up, and then this magnet holds it there, and then we have the little ribbon pull that lifts it up. And I love how that turned out. So now we're ready to start on the back side of page set 1. For the back of page set 1, I've cut out 1 piece of paper. I used 1 sheet of the 7B print, which is these cut aparts in this print here. So this is going to go right here. And then I fussy cut out one of the barns, and I left about 3/8 of an inch tab on here that I cut out in a rectangle. It's attached, and I just fold that. So that's going to be attached there like that, like a little flap. And then I also cut out part of the fence. And to get this straight here, I did not have a fold on it. Then I fussy cut out the rooster and the hen and glued them to the front. And then from a scrap of paper about 3/4 of an inch wide by 1.5 inches or so tall that will fit right here on the back. So I'm going to glue this right now to the back of this fence piece so it can dry. So the fold goes on the back side to the right edge like that. So now we have a hinge piece attached on the back. Now make sure it goes close to the edge as you can without showing. Okay, so there we got that. So that's ready for that. And this one's already got the hinge on it because it's attached and I folded it. So this I'm going to glue down. So make sure you've got your pattern going the right direction. Your hinge should be here to your right, your page hinge, and just go ahead and get your glue on here. So I'm just keeping this back side fairly simple. Don't want too much thickness going on both sides. And so we center this so that it doesn't go over your flap score line, and burnish that down. Okay. And then we take the fence. It's going to go, I'm going to put the barn on first because I want it kind of down here at the bottom. So the glue just goes on that little flap there. And that glues right about here. Okay. Up any excess glue. And then this is going to go underneath. So part of the fence is underneath the gate part. So you just glue on the flap. I'm going to lay this down so I can see. And I'm going to put it about right there. Okay. So that's on the page. Burnish that down. Wipe off any excess glue. There we go. Okay. Got a lot of glue coming out, so we got it right there. So it has the same pattern here, so it kind of blends in. Burnish that. So this goes under, or if you wanted it, you could make it go to the front, but I like it better with the barn on top. So it's just a little flap. You could put a photo underneath there, a photo mat or something. I might do that later. Okay, so for this, before I go on to the next page set, I decided I wanted to add a little magnet, and this is optional, of course. So these, I've already pulled the tabs, the papers off of them. So I'm going to glue one to the back side of the barn, and I will probably put a solid cardstock photo mat there. So it's okay that this is on here right now. I'm going to put a little tape on it to hold it down right there. And then I want this magnet on the underside. I don't want it here on the gate. So I need to match this up, and this is going to glue down onto the page. And then again, I will put something there to cover that up. Now you could have done this underneath your paper and that would have all been hidden, but then I thought of this later. So I'm just seeing where it goes. Okay. I can tell where the glue touches down where I need to attach this magnet right there. So I'm going to put a little tape on that. Oops. Okay, just a small piece of tape. And then also here, if you want, you could cover that with a piece of paper. I haven't decided yet. I may just leave it like that for right now. So that goes over there, and that goes there, and that covers it, holds it down with a magnet. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put a little photo mat right here on the back. So let's look at my scraps. I do have craft cardstock, which will work. So that's a good height. And I'm going to cut it down a little bit. So I'll give you the measurements. Looks like it's about 2 inches wide. Yeah, 2 inches wide by 2 3/4 tall. So it's just from a scrap. So that's going to glue right there over that magnet to make everything kind of hide it and kind of give a little extra thickness here on the back of this little barn. So that will close like that. So that's going to dry like that. And then of course this lifts up. Okay, so I'm not done yet with this back side of page set 1. I was going through my scraps, and then I saw that I had this cut apart, and I trimmed it down. I cut away quite a bit of the red to make it fit exactly between the folds of this gate and the barn. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. And I know it's offset, and I'm okay with that. It just, I like the looks of the barn, the way everything's. I'm going to put glue just on the bottom edge and the 2 sides. Now this is going to be a really flat pocket, and that's okay. It's just a place for maybe a tag or something like that, or an extra photo. But I thought this finished up where that magnet's at. So I'm going to hold this one up to make sure it's going in even. And then this one as well. And then we push this down and burnish these. Let's see here, make sure it's even. Okay, cut it straight. Okay, straight on the bottom, straight on the sides. So that leaves that open. So we have the dog in here with the hay bale and the sunflowers. This closes over that, and then that. And so then you have just the sunflowers peeking out. And I think that really dresses it up. And then, of course, we've got this left open, and I can put a tag or whatever I want to add in later. So for sure, I am done with the back side of page set 1, and we are ready to assemble and add the pattern papers for page set 2. For page set 2, I've decided on the front side to put a push-pull waterfall and use the method that Tamara uses for Country Craft Creations on one of her recent videos. She shows you. I'll do the link down below. I'll try to remember to put the link down below, but I'm going to show you how to make one to fit this page. So we're going to take another sheet of cardstock, and I want you to cut down 5 inches. So this will be a 5. And make sure it is straight, a 5-inch by 12-inch piece of cardstock to start building this push-pull waterfall. And then we need 6 5 by 3.5. So I'm going to cut 6 by 5 and 3.5. So I'm going to cut my 5-inch here. So I will need another piece of cardstock. So cut 5, set this aside right here. 5, turn this and cut at 3.5. And get 3 out of that. Okay, and then grab another, set this one aside, another piece of cardstock to cut the other 3. Cut this down to 5. save this piece, turn and cut down 3 more, 3.5. Okay, 3.5. Okay, set that aside. So there's our waterfall flaps. And then we need one that is 1.5, so that, and by 12. So we're going to cut this one down to 1.5. It's already 12 inches, the scrap we had left. And we have our 1.5. Okay, so we have that. Grab that piece of cardstock we just had, bigger one. I'm going to cut a couple of closure pieces that are, you need 2 that are 4 by 5. So let's cut the 4. Okay, and turn and cut by 5. 2 of them. 2 4 by 5s. Okay, so we can put these pieces away. Set these aside for just a bit here at the top. We have our pieces cut. We can put the trimmer away for our push-pull waterfall. So you'll need your scoreboard again. Now on these 2 pieces that we just cut that are the closure pieces, these are your 2 that are 4 by 5. We're going to score the 4-inch side and a 1/2 inch on each one. 1/2 inch. Put the 4-inch at the top, score it a 1/2 inch. And then on one of these, you're going to take that scallop punch, and across from your score line, you're going to scallop punch, or whatever corner punch you want to use, or you can leave it square. You're going to cut a scallop like that. So this is your flap, our attachment hinge. Score that down. Score this one, fold and burnish this one down. And we will set these aside while we score and assemble our waterfall. And I do have one set, little small magnet set. You need a plus and a minus to hold this down. So this is kind of similar to the ones we did, the flaps for the inside cover. So I've got those. So these are set aside right there. Okay. Now then, your flaps, there's no scoring on these. There's no scoring on this long strip. I have my base page here that we've already made. So I have this laying on the side here. We're going to take this long piece of 5 by 12 cardstock, and we're going to score that. I'm going to put that in at the top, 12 inches at the top. And we're going to score at 3.5, which is the height of one of your waterfalls. So make one 3.5 inch score. Now we need to make 6 gussets for these flaps. So I'm going to score every 1/4 inch. So we're going to score at 3 3/4, 4, 4 1/4. It's kind of hard to see. 4 1/4, 4 1/2, 4 3/4, and at 5. So I'm going to pick this up and count and make sure. So I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 1/4 inch spaces now. So I'm going to leave it exactly the way it was, flip it completely over, and score again, because we're going to train this paper to bend back and forth. So 3.5, 3 3/4, 4, 4 1/4, 4 1/2, 4 3/4, and 5. Okay, then flip it again, leave everything in the same position one more time. Score it 3.5, 3 3/4, 4, 4 1/4, 4 3/4, 4.5, 4 3/4, and 5. Okay, so we've done that 3 times, and we have it looking like that. Can you see? Tilt the light. Okay, so we have that scored, and we can move the scoreboard out of the way. Okay, so next I'm going to fold the top score line like that and burnish, and then we're going to score up and burnish the last one. So we have that like that. And then you can either score, I tend to, Tamara just folds and rounds it to get the shape. But I like to go ahead and score it. So I'm going to score each 1/4 inch to get that fold line. And so you just have to fold it back and make sure you are folding it straight. So by doing those 3 scores before, it really helps it to fold nicely. Okay, so once you have your little score lines all folded and burnished, and I went ahead and did it both directions so that it would turn really well. We're ready to attach our flaps onto this piece here, and it's important that you start at the bottom here where you have your shortest side, your 3.5. And what we're going to do, we're going to glue each flap between each 1/4 inch space. Okay, so I've got my fine tip on my glue. I normally just use glue without it, but for this I want to make sure that I'm staying in between this 1/4 inch space. And I take my first one, and you want the top of this one to attach down along the second score line into that 1/4 inch spacing. And you want to make sure that you're even here on the side at the top and the bottom and on both sides. So you're going to have a little 1/4 inch here, and you've got this in here. So then you burnish that. Don't do any folding. We're going to let that dry really well. We're going to go ahead and put all of them on the same way. So you scoot up to the next 1/4 inch, apply your glue, take this second flap, and again make sure you don't go over your score line, and you attach this down into the 1/4 inch. Now again, we need to scoot and make sure we're even here on the side. If you cut it out right, it will fit perfectly. Burnish that down, and when you burnish, be careful that you're not scooching it over. I tend to press really hard, and then it moves my little flap over. So now third one, glue in the 1/4 inch space. Take your third flap, same thing. Make sure you're not going over that score line there at the top. Line it up here on the side. I press it down. That works better than burnishing. Press it down and then do your burnish so that you're not sliding. Okay, the next one. And once we get these all on, it's real important to just wait a few minutes or so. Oops, I did one wrong here. I have to look, and I skipped one. Pull this up. Oh, this one's cut wrong. Let me lay that aside. I need to recut that one. Sorry about that. I'll put this back on. Sometimes I get to cutting and I cut it down to, I think, 3 inches. So pay attention. You want to make sure that you've got a 1/4 inch space down there with each flap. So that one's right there. And then I need a little more glue here. Should have double checked all those. So I'm going to have to recut one. But that's okay. I haven't messed that one up. I can use that for a photo mat or something. So let's get one more here that I have, and then I will pause the camera and quickly cut one that's correct. We need one that's 3.5 by 5. Make sure this one's correct. I may have cut. Looks like it's okay. Don't know why I did that. Okay, we got that. Okay, we just need one more cut, and these can all start drying. So I recut 3.5 by 5, and this will go in here, and that will finish it all up. So last 1/4 inch section here, we need glue. And then I will let that dry. Now you can see here on the right, I have pattern paper that I have already cut for this, and I will definitely be giving you the measurements for that, for this, the front part of page set 2. So this is where we're putting this push and pull waterfall. Okay, so we're going to let that dry, and before we start flipping everything over, and let it dry and wait on that for just a little bit. Okay, once it's good and dry, we're going to flip these up and burnish to make sure they are all on good and that they flip well. And they should, because you've already burnished everything. Just make sure no glue has got them stuck where they shouldn't be. See how easy that flips up. I'm just going to do it again. Just take my time and burnish all of them. Okay. So now, this is our long top up here. We're going to fold that under just like that. Now you see we have all this extra down here. This is what's going to be either your pull, or where you add cut off and add your pull tab, or like on this one, I'm going to add a closure piece, which will become its pull. So we will cut some of this off. While we're constructing it, we leave it at the full 12 so that we can put everything on there. You could add more flaps if you wanted to, as long as it fits on your album page. So we have this done at this point right here. Okay, so for this next step, we need to pay really close attention. So you've got it like this. This is the way it was when we put it together. Long piece up here, we fold it under, we have it here. Okay, this is where our excess is, this is where all our flaps are. Now we're going to flip it over and pull it back. Okay, flip it over, pull this back. We're going to turn it so that we have this short one back here. And I'm going to double check on my sample one that I made just to be sure that's where we want it. Yeah. So now you see the back of all your lines here, and you have your 3.5 up here. That's important. So we're going to put glue on the back of just this flap. If I can get it going again, let me take this off. Typically don't use my fine tip that much, so I'm just going to put my glue here, about 1.5 inches width. And we're going to take this piece here, and you can just eyeball it and center it. But you're going to make sure that it goes all the way, the edge of it goes all the way to the top edge here. And we just burnish. So you've got it extending on each side. So burnish, okay, and let that dry. Once it's dried, you're going to bring this bottom up, okay, and now we're ready to bring this over. Now, you don't want this creased and folded down real tight. You want it to have a little room, but not a whole lot. So I take the ruler here and just line it up and fold this up against the ruler. That ruler is going to give us a little space in there. And do that on both sides. Fold that tab up, burnish it. Now it's going to go down. And I go ahead and kind of flatten that just a little bit and see how it looks on the side. I don't want it sticking out too terribly much. Okay, turn it back. Now you're going to glue this piece here together. Just this. Don't glue it to your back. Just take your glue, put some glue here on your front side here. Make sure there's no glue underneath there, and then press this down. I'm going to put a little bit here on the end of this one. Okay, so line these up and just hold that down. And if any glue gets there, just wipe it up. Okay, so once this piece has dried, you just turn it over. Now's the time to check it. So what I do is here, I put my finger under in between the base and this piece here, and just flip it over. And then you pull on this bottom one, and they should all flip smoothly and then go back in. So that's the push and pull. Now it'll be smoother when this is glued down to your album page. So this is finished, and then we're ready to change this the way we want it. So for mine, we're going to add these closure flaps and a magnet. So let's do some paper on these first. So this is going to be the bottom, this is going to be the top. And I've already scallop punched the bottom here and inked all the edges. So this goes here. Now we can do this one here because we don't do the magnet yet, but we don't want to do the bottom one here until we're ready, because it's going to fit like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this pattern paper on. You can hear some thunder in the background. It would be wonderful if it rained. I just don't know. It is so hot here in Texas, and everything is just drying up. Something terrible. Kind of like my glue here. Anyway, I can hear a little bit of thunder, and they said 20% chance, so it would be really wonderful if we would get some rain. Just 5 minutes, I'd be happy to kind of give everything a drink of water. It would be great. So I'm going to put this on the front, and I decided to use this pattern here. And this, of course, measures. Let me check my notes here. Pattern paper. We cut 4 of these that are 4 7/8 wide by 3.5 tall, and 2 of them you do the punch, and then 2 of them you leave straight. So for this side of the page, page set 2 for the front side, I did use 1 sheet of the 7B, 1 sheet of 5A, and 1 sheet of 12B, if you're wanting to use the same patterns that I am. So this goes like that. Now then, this one we can go ahead and put in. So this is for the inside. Yeah, I'm using the goats here, and I cut it out wrong, and I had to piece it back together. So you can barely tell. When I cut it, I measured it and cut the rooster's head off, and I didn't like that. And I'm like, oh no. So you want this to be the 3.5 tall by 4 7/8 wide, but plan it so that you get the piece that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this score tape. I do this. I use score tape if I cut something too short and have to piece it together if I don't have much paper where I can recut it. So that's something you can do to fix things, you know, to make it to where it works the way you want it to. So this is going to go like that. So I want this, make sure my pattern's going so that when it flips down, you see the animals on the farm and the trees and the flowers. So I'll burnish that. And that doesn't show up really bad there, that little cut line there. I'd much rather have that than have a rooster with no head on him. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to leave this one unfinished and this one unfinished. Now, let's go back to this piece here. We don't want this long here, so we're going to cut this away. So you want to make sure you have it so that your mechanism or your piece that makes it work right is on the back. And we're going to cut this. We don't want to cut this piece here. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch line along the bottom of the other. Through this clear ruler you can see. And I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to draw me a line and then look at it. Oops, that's crooked. Got that crooked. Erase that one. Let's see here. Right there. Should be right there. I don't know why it came out that way. Draw another line and see how that is. It's a little further out than I wanted. But I'm going to cut that anyway, and I'm going to use my big scissors because I want to make sure I'm not cutting my mechanism piece. So I'm going to pull this out some, and I'm just going to cut right along that pencil line. Okay, so that's about right. I could cut off a little bit more. What you want is about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so that makes the piece shorter. This you can just toss. Okay, now then we're going to take this and I'm going to slide this up so this flap will go underneath my mechanism. So I'm putting glue on this 1/2 inch tab here. I'm going to slide this in underneath the mechanism so that I can line this up with the bottom edge of this waterfall piece. So just want to make sure I'm getting it straight like that. So I'm lining it up, checking it, make sure everything kind of falls in place with my score line. There we go. And burnish. So this is going to flip up like that. So I added that to the bottom there. Okay, and burnish it in. And then this one's going to go along the top here. So that when this folds up, it's like adding an extra flap to the top. So close everything up. So you have your waterfall like this. Close it down. Bring this bottom flap up so you have it looking like this. And this is going to glue to the back of your piece here. So I'm going to put my glue on the inside of this hinge. And then I'm going to attach this to the top edge so that the fold hangs over. Line everything up. Flip it over and burnish. Okay. Now we can do our magnet. And then we can start adding our patterned paper. And I like to do all this before I put anything into the book. Okay, so grab my little magnets. I've got a plus and a minus. And I'm going to pull the backing off. It doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to put it right here in the center, about 3/4 of an inch from the bottom, from the top, I mean. Take some tape, cover that up, drop my magnet, second one down on that, pull that backing off, and then close everything up. Now, making sure everything lines up, close that up, press it down and open up, and then tape on this last one. Okay, now we can add our patterned paper for this. So I'll line up my lines here pretty well. And so this one goes here. And don't worry, those little tags you see there, we have another full sheet of that we can use to decorate with. We got 2 for each sheet in the collection pack. Yep, that's right. Okay, line that up. Burnish it down. Oops, way too much glue. I guess I need to put my fine tip back on, or use a little less glue. Okay, so that flips up, it goes down. So now we can put this one in, and the way you punch it so that your image looks like that. So you've got your scallop punch there at the top, and when you open it up, it's like a continuous image there. A little snaggy there on the end. I changed out my blade. I don't know if it's the Heartfelt paper. I've never had this problem on all the papers before.
Lightning has been detected near your location.
And we have lightning detected, but so far no rain. Okay, so we put the glue on there. Had a little bit of that score tape left over from when I pieced that other paper back together and then recut and cut this one. So we just line this up, for a magnet, and burnish. Love this image on this paper. The barns and the trees, so pretty. I'm a farm girl. I was raised on a farm, so I do love this paper. So that's what that looks like. So this flips up like that. Okay. Now then, we're ready for, let's grab our page. So our base page, this is going to sit down on top of that. So we need to put our pattern paper on our page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this is cut 5 3/8 by 7 7/8. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that on. Just like that. I'm looking at the lettering to make sure it's not upside down. My hinge is to the left. My L hinge. Okay. And we burnish. Okay, so that's ready. I'm going to set that aside. And we're going to finish adding pattern paper here. Now this on the inside here. Let's see here. I'm going to wait on this piece. So this piece is for the waterfall flaps. And this I cut at, you're going to start out with 1. So for this image, I cut out 4 7/8 wide and it's 6.5 tall. And I planned it so that I started at the top of this tree, cut a little bit of the tree off, and planned it so that I have the cow, just a little bit of her ears gone, and then we have the little goat jumping in the flowers here at the bottom. Okay, so once you have your image size cut out, that is the 4 7/8 wide by 6.5. That's just the size that I started out with. You're going to cut from the top. You want your first piece here. You want it solid for this one. So you already have your width cut. So you turn it, and you're going to cut at 3 3/8 to fit on your first flap. Now, yes, it's going to cut through the cow. It's okay. So leave this one here. So we have the cow cut. And I'm going to take my ink. I've already inked the sides and the top. So I'm going to ink the bottom where I just cut it. Okay. And so this is going to glue right here. So we're starting this here. Now, what's different about this one than your normal waterfall that I've done this on is it's normally you have a 1/2 inch. And so this one we just have the 1/4 inch. So I'm going to try to cut that and see how it works. Because I really wanted this image to be like on the whole waterfall piece here. So glue this one on right here on the top. Oops, come up a little bit and over. Okay, so center that on there and burnish that. Okay, now here's how this goes. So you still got this in here. You didn't move it out, but you need to scoot it over to your 1/4 inch line and make sure you're holding it so it's straight. And I'm going to cut it. Okay, so leave it in there. Now, because of this paper, I don't know, I've changed my blade, but I still get these little raggedy bits, and I don't like that. So I'm cleaning it up as I go, hopefully. So ink your edge where you cut it. I've already done the sides. Now you see how it's not much of your image, but you're going to glue this on that next flap so that just the 1/4 inch shows. So you have a little bit of craft showing, but it's the image continuing. So I'm going to take my glue, carefully add glue here, because I have my fine tip off because it kept clogging on me. And I want to make sure it's lining up here on the side the same as this one, with just a little bit of craft. And I'll lift this up so it doesn't stick down. And I burnished that with my fingers. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we're ready for the next one. So scoot it over to your 1/4 inch line. Hold this down. It's going to get a little tricky the further along we get. But we're going to do that because I think you'll love it. If you haven't done this before, I think you'll really love the look. And I wish this would cut better. I don't know if it's whiskers or the paper, the blade. The blades are new, so I don't like this happening. So I'm going to try out. I've ordered a new trimmer. I go from trimmer to trimmer, seeking the better one. I'm going to try the Stampin' Up brand next. I'm not going to recommend it. I don't know yet. I know a lot of the other designers, Country Craft Creations, use the Stampin' Up, so we'll see. I've used a Cricut brand that I liked. I don't know, I might go back to that. I've used the Fiskars. I've used Creative Memories. I like the sliding type for a lot of my crafts because, you know, you can do a lot of things with it. So, man, I just don't like those little jaggedy bits, but nothing I can do about it very much. Okay, so there's that one. See how it's continuing the image. So you still have your cow. It's just when you flip it up, it's going to be a little different. So next one, we're going to keep doing that. I'm not going to do that on slow time. I'm going to speed up the camera while I do that to cut the rest. Oh, look how jagged that is. I have to really sand that off. That's crazy. I'm just wondering if it's the threads of the paper for this collection, because it has been really, really bad. Turn this back around. I don't want to get mixed up and cut the 1/4 inch. And so I'm going to do this off camera, not off camera. I'm going to speed this up and keep doing these, and you do it one at a time so you don't get mixed up. That's the best way. And glue these down. Okay, so I've got it all on, and I cut by scissors just a little bit and kind of fill this in because I had this one a little short. So if you have to do that. So now it's all in there. I love how that looks. So when this flips up, you're going to see you have a place here for your photos, but when it's closed like that, you see that whole image, and that is just so cool. If you had cut the full pattern paper, you wouldn't be able to see that. So now I still have this, and the reason I have this is one that was cut, I think this is 4 7/8 by 3.5. Yeah, and I've already inked it. And it's got some of that tattering on there too. It's just driving me crazy. Driving me crazy. Okay, so this you lift up here. So this where it slides, if you don't want to leave that crafty, I'm going to slide this up underneath here and just glue that in to kind of finish that off, yeah, with some pattern paper. You could leave it craft if you wanted to. I hope this doesn't hinder the sliding any. I don't think it will, so I'm going to try to glue it down really well, burnish it good. And so this, you just slide up underneath this piece here and then put it right above that print there that you added on the very last one. And I'm going to burnish that in. And then this will be ready to attach onto our page. So see how this closes up. Sure there's no glue there. Okay. Oops. Is it catching? Hope not. Okay. Okay. Something's buckling here. There we go. Now, okay, so now the magnet catches. So there's that piece there. So you take your page, and I'm just going to glue it right there in the center. Now, you could have used ribbon to, you know, tie that off, to kind of finish that off some. I don't think I'm going to put ribbon on this. I'm just going to leave it for the magnet. Now then, the gluing. This is really important. You've got to leave it free. So this is all that you glue down, I think. I'm going to double check that. Don't do anything just yet. Okay, so yes, I double checked before we make a major mistake. Our glue is just going to go on this mechanism piece back here. We don't want to attach the whole thing down. So I'm putting a pretty good amount of glue because I want to make sure it stays when it's doing its pushing and pulling and flipping. And then we take this. I'm going to open up my hinge here so it's nice and flat. And I'm just going to eyeball it about the same. Put it in the center, side to side, top to bottom. Get it straight as I can. Is that straight enough? Let's see. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to open this up somehow and get down in here because it's way down in there that I want to burnish it. Okay, and just let that dry. Push it back in. Oh, I love that. That's going to be so awesome. So next, we're going to work on the back side of page set 2. I've got everything already pre-cut, and it's pretty simple, so we'll get to that next. Okay, so I have all my pieces ready to go for the back side of page set 2. So we're going to flip this over. Let me grab my notes. Originally, I was going to put this on the front, and then I decided I want that push-pull on the front because I just thought that it would work better. So I'm flipping to my notes for the front part of this page. So this is where we're going to put the top flap that we made and the little gusset pocket here. I've already cut out my pattern papers. We don't want to put this one down yet, and this one does not use a magnet. So let's get our little pocket done first. So we've already scored it and folded it up and cut out our corners here when we were doing that. Now, what we need to do is glue this together. So I'm putting a little bit of glue on this bottom corner here, on each, just on that 1/2 inch piece, just in that corner. Okay, now you make sure this one, the 1/4 inch stays up, and you line this up, and this one you line it up. So you're lining up and squaring this up. So you've got a little room with your glue to you know, get that lined up before it actually grabs. So if you have to let go and, you know, just play with that, you want to make sure that the edge of this is lined up and that this little corner here is all nice and square. So I'm just reaching in there with my finger to kind of press it down, burnish it with my finger, and then I go back to this other side because it kind of popped up too. And we just get this all squared up in there. So we have like this little box type thing with hinges on the back. Now I probably should have put my pattern paper on first, which I didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this patterned paper is cut at 5 3/8 wide by 1 7/8 tall, and you only need one Cows are cute, but that one's cut off. So I'm just going to use the yellow. I've already inked the edges. So I'm going to get this on right here. So kind of center that on there. Okay. And then burnish. Like I said, it would have been easier if I hadn't assembled the pocket yet. But there we go. We've got that. Just like that. And this is going to make sure you've turned this. So this is your bottom, your hinges to your left. This is going to go right here on the bottom. Now I'm going to put it down before I add my pattern paper, and I may have to trim that some. So I'm going to put my glue on my 1/2 inch, all 3 sides of my little pocket here. Okay. Glue everywhere. And then we line this up. Now I'm going to make sure I'm leaving clearance for the hinge here. So I'm going to bring it more to the outer edge. And it should line up, and you should line it up down here on the bottom. So it fits right here on the bottom, nice and even and straight. So you don't want it sticking out, and you don't want it too far in either. But you do want it catching in there. I'm going to get my longer bone folder so I can reach in there and kind of burnish that. Okay. Burnish those hinges. So there's the pocket right there. Okay. Now this piece I cut, we're going to see if it'll slide in, and it does. So this is your, where did I write that down? 5 3/8 wide by 7 7/8 tall. I love the sunflowers here on the brown. So before we put this in, it does fit, so I double check that. We need to put our top flap on, and let's put our pattern paper on that. So I picked the gold again to match this. So you need to cut 2 of these that are 5 3/8 wide by 5 7/8 tall. And I think I inked this one. I better ink it again. It doesn't look inked. So just to make sure, I'm going to hit it with some ink. I'm not inking real heavy, so sometimes it doesn't show up a whole lot. But I think it was inked, but that's okay. So I got it inked. So this is going to go on the front, and I'm not using a magnet, so I can go ahead and add my pattern paper for this without worrying about that. So go ahead and get your glue on. And line this one up on the front. Right here. Just get it on straight. Okay, and burnish that. And then, of course, we're going to flip it over, and I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use, do I want to use the sunflowers or the green? I think I want the sunflowers again. That look weird. Flipped up, and then that's going to be sunflowers in there. Maybe I'll use the green. I think I'll use the green. So I did ink this. Make sure I have plenty of ink there. Is there any wording in there? So this is the top, the direction here. So this is the top. So that print goes up there. Oops. We'll add this to the inside of the flap. Okay, just like this. Okay, burnish. Now, before we put our pattern paper in, we're going to attach this. Remember, you have your 1/4 inch. So I'm going to flatten this down so just the 1/2 inch is showing. Put your glue. And take this and glue that folded edge right along the top edge. And see if it kind of sticks out too much. Just a little bit, maybe. May have to trim that. I don't know why. This other end up against that right there. So line this up, burnish that down. Okay. It's a little, sticks out a little bit right here, and I'm just going to take the scissors. I don't know why, if I cut it a little bit off and just trim that, not a whole lot, just a little bit to get that little piece off that's sticking out too much. Okay, drop that down and then make your little 1/4 inch stand back up there. And there. So now let's add this pattern paper. I did ink this one, so we just got to put the glue on. Okay. So remember, don't go over your little 1/4 inch there. Burnish that down. I'm going to reach in here and burnish. Okay. So by using the longer paper in this pocket, it keeps the piece down in there from snagging. So when you put a tag and different things in there. So there's that. It's kind of funny, but we'll decorate it. And we have this that's going to go. So this is, that would be pretty right there. And I think I might do that. I had a thing I'm going to make out of it, but I think I might have another one that I can use. And I can add this one on here. Or do we want to add a string? That's going to hold it. It's going to hold itself down okay. Just like that. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. And I'm going to put this right here on the front. And then I'll find another one that I want to use to put inside. So just glue this down. Kind of brighten all this up and add a design to the front of the flap. I'm going to center that. Okay, and burnish. So that is the back page set 2, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make a flip photo mat to go inside your pocket. Okay, so I have a piece of cardstock that I cut down to tag 4, about 4 by 5, looks like 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, because it's cut to fit this tag here. So I cut the tag down, so I have a little bit of a margin of the craft showing. Then I cut, this is 1 inch wide, this is just a scrap, and I just laid it on here, and I cut it the width of this. And I'm going to fold it in half. You could use your scoreboard if you wanted to. But I fold it so that what's going to be glued down is on the outside, because I don't want to see. And so I look at this, and I find the top, which is this one. And I'm going to put glue on this 1/2 inch here. Making a hinge here. I'm going to glue it right here on the top. So the fold goes along the top edge of the tag with the cut apart without sticking out over the top, and just burnish that down. Okay, so now we have this little hinge on here, and we can take this and we can just attach it to the top of the craft cardstock. So we put the glue here on the hinge, and we just layer this on. Whoops, line it up, because it's got to have a little bit of a margin. There we go. The top and the bottom and the sides. And then burnish that down. And so now we have, wipe off any glue on the inside because you don't want it sticking down. But now we have a photo mat that has a flip tag here. And on your page here, this can go inside your pocket. So I can add a lot more because it's a pocket that's thicker, and then this is made where it like lays out like that. So that is page set 2. So we have one. These go like this, and they kind of, the background papers mirror each other. And there's the first one. So there's page set 1 on the front, page set 1 on the back, page set 2 with our waterfall, and then the back of page set 2. So we have one more page set we have to do. So I'm going to plan all that and get all that together for you. So we have one more base page with a flap here. So we'll work on that next. The front side of page set 3 is going to be real simple. We're just going to do a simple belly band. So take your base page. I've got my hinge to the left, and I'm going to glue on my pattern paper. So I chose the sheet. I cut this from the 2B, from one sheet of the 2B, and I've inked the edges. So this is 5 3/8 wide by 7 7/8 tall. So we're going to just glue that on. Make sure my glue is ready to go here. And of course I have to use a pen to get it going. Okay, there we go. So we get our glue going. And attach this. And I want the sunflowers down at the bottom. Just like this. Make sure it's on straight as I can. Okay, an even margin all the way around. So burnish it down. Now the belly band is going to be a flat belly band. I took a scrap of cardstock and cut this to 2 inches by 8. And then I took a scrap of this paper from the 7B. This one's 2B. Did I say that wrong? This was a sheet of 2B. This is from a scrap of 7B. And I'm just going to glue that right on there. And this one is cut at 1 7/8 wide by 7 7/8 tall. So we'll put that on there. So these flat belly bands are great for a page that you don't want to do a lot on it, but you want to be able to tuck some photos or photo mats or journaling cards underneath and hold them onto the page. Now pay attention to the lettering here. And so this is just going to glue onto the page. I'm going to off center it. I don't want it on the center, and I'm just going to put a line of glue on each end. Real simple, real easy. So I'm going to position it about right here. And it is the length of the page, so it goes all the way down. And just make sure it's straight. And then burnish those on the end. And you have a belly band tuck spot right here. So now we're ready to start on the final side, which is the back of page set 3 of our pages. For the back of page set 3, we're going to add the add-on flap to the back side rather than the front. So this is the front, so this will flip over. So I'm going to set that aside. Now I forgot and cut all these off camera. I used one sheet of 12 by 12 cardstock to cut the pieces to add on to the back of this flap. Okay, so I'm going to look at this. This is going to attach to the left side, I'm sorry, of this page. So this is going to be, I'm going to take my pencil and write so that I know this is the top. So just write the word top up here so that you know while you're doing your assembling. And we get everything in the right place, okay? So we'll do the scoring on camera. I did cut this off camera, so I apologize for that. But it's real simple, and I will give you the measurements. So from the one sheet, first I cut this piece, which is 4 7/8 by 12. And then I cut, this one we already had. Then I cut my pocket, which is 5 7/8 by 4 1/2. And then I cut a little hinge for this piece here that we're going to make this fold out. That is 1 inch by 4 7/8. And then a top flap I cut at 4 7/8 by 5.5. So let's score this one first. So let's put the 12-inch. This is our 4 by 12. Put the 12-inch at the top of your scoreboard, and you're going to score at 4 and 8. Okay. Now this is just going to simply fold like this. And we're going to make us a folding piece. And then we're going to take this little hinge, and we'll go ahead and score this, but we're not going to assemble it yet. I'm going to set this aside. So this, you put your 1 inch at the top and score in half at a 1/2 inch. And this is attachment hinge because I wanted the full 4 inch of my fold out. So I'm adding on a hinge so that I can accomplish that. So that's our hinge. And then our top flap, which is your 4 7/8 by 5.5, we're going to score our 5.5 inch side, put that at the top, and score at a 1/2 inch. That's what we'll attach with, and 3/4 of an inch. So that gives us a 1/4 inch. We'll gusset. So go ahead and fold and burnish those. And we'll get all our scoring out of the way. Okay, so there's that, just like that. And for the pocket, we're going to put our, this is your 5 7/8 by 4.5 inch piece. So put your 5 7/8 in at the top. You're going to score at a 1/2 inch. Turn so that your 4.5 is at the top. Score at a 1/2 inch. And turn one more time so that you have the 5 7/8 here at the top, and score at a 1/2 inch. So this is going to make a regular pocket. You're going to angle cut right across at the intersections on the corners to make the corners so that they don't overlap. Burnish all your fold lines. And there we have the pocket piece, just like that. Now, I forgot the top flap here, opposite of your score lines. Take your scallop punch or whatever decorative punch you may have used and punch those two bottom corners like that. So that's the look I've been doing in mine, so you might want to do the same in yours. Okay, so next we're going to attach our hinge. So we have this piece here. We've got it folded like this. So you have this mountain right here. We have this piece here at the top. We're going to add our hinge to the top. So on one side of your 1/2 inch of your hinge, put your glue. Take this, attach the fold of this hinge to the cut top edge of this fold out piece, just like this. Make sure you've lined it up and burnish it. Okay, now we have it like this, and it's going to go into the book down here at the bottom so that it can fold up. And I do want to go ahead and attach this in. But before we do that, let's do our pocket. So we have this, it's going to attach to the flap like this, and it will fold up, and this will fold down. Now our pocket will go right here on this front one. So see, you have your hinge, fold up, down, and up. So the pocket should fit right on top of this front one. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put our glue on all three. Our flaps are 1/2 inch here for our pocket. Okay, it'll be on the front one, not the one with the hinge, and make sure it's going the right way. Line it up at the bottom along that fold. Burnish that. I'll show you to make sure you've got it right. So we've got the hinge here at the top of this one. It attaches on, and this all comes down, and then when this folds up, this one folds up. It has a pocket here at the top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on so we don't get confused, and then we'll do our pattern paper. So I'll put the glue on this hinge here that we just added, this add-on hinge. And I'm going to flatten out my hinges on my page. Make sure this is to your flap. This is to your left, and this is the top up here. And we're going to put this. Now I cut it so that it would not fit exactly, as I want to make sure there's room. So I'm kind of centering it. Make sure there was room and not go over the hinge or off the page. Okay, so like that. Burnish that in. Open this up, clean up your glue. Now we have this folding in like that. Now then, this top flap is going to go here, and the 1/4 inch should give us the allowance that we need for that. And then we're going to put this on here, just like this. So you flatten it down so you just see your 1/2 inch. Put your glue on. Put this, line it up. I'm going to open this up so I can see, so that you're lining it up with the bottom fold out down here. And then make sure it's lined up here at the top. Okay? And then when you stand it up to burnish, your 1/4 inch will stand up like that. Okay, and so now we're going to put a magnet on, or we could add a, let's do a tie. We haven't done a ribbon tie, and I think I'm going to like that better. And that will tie here in the center, and we're going to attach it to the back of this page, of the flap, because we haven't done anything with that yet. So let's get our ribbon. Let's see how much I think I might want. So 2 pieces, about almost 20 inches each. Hopefully that's enough to make a nice bow, a tie on that. So let's take our flap here, and we're going to flip it over, and we're going to tape. And I'm just going to use clear tape, our ribbon. Kind of center it. Take one to the top, and then flip it over. Well, I had it flipped over. Tape one to the bottom. Okay. Gotta make sure they go across from each other, just like that. Okay, so now we pull this around, and this flap will go over it. And we'll bring this ribbon around, and it will just tie right there in the center. And here. And now we're ready for our pattern paper. So I did make plenty of ribbon here. I'm going to trim this down some. I'm going to do a little dovetail, I think. Like that. So I cut off about almost 5 inches. So what did I say? So about 15 inches would have been plenty. And I'll put that in the cutting guide, that 15 inches, 2 pieces of 15-inch ribbon. Okay, there we go. So that's going to look really pretty once we get the pattern papers on there. So I've cut and inked all my pattern papers for this page set 3, for this flap that goes on the back of page set 3. So what I did use, I used a full sheet of sheet number 11B, and then I used a large leftover piece from sheet number 3B, and all the rest I just went through my scraps. Some of them were large, some were not, and cut the rest of the pieces from scraps. So whatever you have that you like will work just fine. So this is the piece here. We cut this, but we're not going to put this on, this pattern piece, until this is all done and added to it. But this piece here is your base piece, and you need 5 3/8 by 7 7/8. So I've cut that one, set that one aside. Now here for all these fold outs that we did, I have it all cut, and I am going to put a little magnet here on this one down here to hold it in. So I'm going to unclip this, and for this top flap, you need two pieces that are 4 3/4 wide of 4 5/8. Look at how you're going to lay them on, and then you scallop punch those. So that's how I want this to look here. And then on this bottom here on these, you need 6 that are 4 3/4 wide by 3 7/8 tall. So I'm going to, let's see here. I want the magnets here. I want this here, the magnet. So I want the magnets here on even though I have the tie, I want a little bit of a magnet to just kind of hold this here in place. If you don't want to tie, then you wouldn't have to. So I'm going to open this up, and I want the magnet here and here. So I'm going to pull this paper out. Clips here. Okay. So I'm going to take my little magnet, pull the little backing off, and I'm going to put it right here in the center, where the ribbon is, and I'm going to tape that magnet down. Reattach and then pull the backing off. And then I'm going to fold this up so it attaches down. So that's going to hold that bottom. Open that back up. Take this magnet. And we'll go ahead and put these pattern papers on so we don't get mixed up. And like I said, I've already inked them. So I wanted this one here on the bottom. So these were all cut from scraps that I had. And again, these are the 4 3/4 wide by 3 7/8 tall. Let's get these on here. So this one goes here over the magnet. This red one goes up here. Okay. Okay, so we'll fold those back down. And this one is the dog, goes on this front one here. Okay, just line it up. Remember, this one is a pocket. Now, what I thought I would do is put a little thumb notch in there. And I went ahead and put the pattern paper on because it just, I think, makes it a little easier. I'm going to take my 1 inch and I'm going to go inside this pocket and just do a little bit of a thumb notch. Just kind of center it. Just like that. Now you have some craft showing in there, so I'm going to take just a scrap of paper. My scraps here that'll fit in there. Okay, I'm just going to take my scissors and cut me a strip. I'll go ahead and ink that. I have some ink still left. Just need it on the top edge. Put some glue on it. And then I'm going to slide it in there. So there's a little bit of color, you know, where that thumb notch is. So it doesn't have to go all the way down. I mean, not all the way. Doesn't have to cover, the pattern paper doesn't have to cover all the way. Just make sure it's in there. And I'm going to take my bone folder, wipe some glue off, and burnish. Okay, so there's that little bit of color. Let's bring this one down. So this one goes here. And like I said, these were all cut from different scraps of paper. Oops. A little cricket there. If this was the back side of something I had cut. And with the green here. Pull that down, and then this one here has the plaid. Let's double check, see if I've got them all covered. So we have all those. So there we go, that side, and then that side, and then magnet holds it down. So then let's flip this down. So this piece here, this is the add-on flap, and it's 4 7/8 by 7 7/8. You need 2 of those, one for this inside and one for the outer side. So I'll put this one on. You make sure that it's covering up these hinges here that we added in down here at the bottom, but make sure it doesn't go over that little 1/4 inch one up there at the top, okay? So just burnish that. Now then, this folds in like that. Holds it down here at the bottom, but it will still fold out. It's not held here. If you were not using the tie, then you would probably put a magnet on this. So now we have this piece here. So we have our top flap, which is the sunflower, the rest of this image here. Or the rest of that strip of paper. So I cut it so I have the dog on the bottom, and then this right here. Okay. And I put this up. This one's going to go here. Now I've punched it so that when it opens up, you see this image like that. Okay. A little bit of that piece hanging off. Like. Let's wiggle this down. Thank you so much for following along with me on this tutorial. I thought that I would go ahead and do the patterned paper with you as I assemble. Okay, so there's that one, and there's that like that. And then we bring this around and we can tie it. And then we will do the flip side of this little flappy thing. And then we will add that onto our page. So we flip this over. So here's this other piece that I cut, some more sunflowers that fits right there. So that's the piece that is 4 7/8 wide by 7 7/8 tall. And that just goes right over that ribbon. And I'm going to put a little glue right there along the edge just to make sure. Okay, there we go. And line it up. Really burnish there over that ribbon. And there is that one. So now we're ready to put it into the back of page set 3. So pay attention to your direction here. So you got your hinge here. Take this off, right side, and then this is going to attach right here on the left side. So flatten your hinge down so you only see the 1/2 inch. Put your glue on that flap. line it up so it goes right along the edge of the left side of the page. Make sure it's on good, straight, the top and the bottom. Okay, open that up. And then this green one goes right in here. Okay, so now we have all our page sets assembled and the pattern paper on them. And so we're ready to put these pages into our book. Remember, you have your 1/4 inch here that's not going to be covered up because that's a little gusset thing. So just burnish your paper down, wipe off any excess glue, and there's the page set 3 on the back. There's the front. So everything's ready. So I'm going to move all this out of the way, and we'll get ready to put this into our album. So let me grab the rest. So this all goes in like this. We've got them all ready to go. Now, if you wanted to cover some of your 1/4 inch, you can. I don't think that I am going to, but you certainly could cut very narrow, under 1/4 inch wide strips and glue those on there if you wanted to. Those are really hard to cut, but you could do it like we did on our push-pull waterfall. Okay, so let's, next we'll be putting our pages into the album cover. So now we're ready to put these pages in. So here is our cover opened up. This is the outside. Here's our 2 inch spine right here. You have 3 1/2 inch L hinges here. So that equals to 1 1/2. That means we have a 1/4 inch space on each side that when we put these down. I'm going to be using this little 1/4 inch spacer from Country Craft Creations. Now, if you don't have one of these, you could cut you a 1/4 inch piece of chipboard. It's not long enough, but it works to give me my 1/4 inch space from my fold here. Okay, so I'm going to put it right about there so that my page will go in straight. So I'm going to take my first page. This is page set 1. I've got my hinge folded back. I'm going to take my glue, and I'm going to put glue on this 1/2 inch here. Okay, and I'm going to hold this down with my fingers. Make sure I'm staying straight. I'm going to put this in. Now, you're going to want about a 1/4 inch from the bottom and the top. So I am just eyeballing that part, and I can see that I've got that pretty straight all the way across. So I'm going to set that down, press, move this out of the way, and make sure it stays straight. Okay. Standing up to look at it, make sure. Okay, everything's straight here. Pressing down so that glue catches, then carefully lift it up and press in here and wipe off any excess glue that I might have had. And I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to burnish. And I'm going to let this dry for just a bit. I don't want it pulling up. I'm going to let it drop down and let it sit there and rest and dry. So that just takes a few seconds for that. Okay, so now we flip this over. It's not going to lay down flat because of the way things are made in here, and that's okay. So we've got this down. We take our next page, and what this is going to do, this is going to fit in right up against that. Now, the way I have this piece here, it's a little hard for you to see that, but it's going to butt right up to that 1/2 inch section. If you want to skip over a little bit, you could, but I'm not. So I've got my hinge here, and I'm going to put my glue on the hinge. Got a little bit of the paper there that's not sticking down. I'm going to press that down. Well, I didn't have that on there good. Okay. So now we have the glue, and we're going to line this up. Now you line it up so that that 1/2 inch is matched up, top and bottom. So it doesn't look like you have a 1/2 inch in there, but you do. It just is filled in with these elements that we made. So I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to burnish really well on that hinge. And again, I'm going to just wait and let that dry. I'm just going to kind of let it stand there and hold it and make sure that this L hinge dries in here where it's supposed to. Okay, so I'm just going to pause and let that dry. Okay, so for the 3rd page, I'm holding this up straight with my little tape dispenser. But the great thing about an L hinge, you can put it in this way, the way it's supposed to, but I have plenty of room. I'm actually going to turn my hinge to the left and butt this in. And so that's going to give me more space between page 2 and page set 3. Just going to give me more room here. I can add something thicker on my belly band, and I think I still have plenty of room here on the outer side, so I actually have more than the 1/4 inch, and that's okay. So you can allow extra space if you have room for it or you need it with an L hinge. It's just a matter of positioning your page where you need to put it, but make sure that it lines up top and bottom. So I'm going to drop this in, line it up, butt it up to the other hinge. And this will be covered. I will be adding pattern paper in there to cover it. So I'm going to just kind of let this drop down some. And I'm going to burnish in here really well. Make sure I can actually hold it up and press it down and let that glue grab. And if it slides on you, push it back. Make sure it lines up straight here and at the top and the bottom, and it will be fine if you have done that. So I'm going to burnish this, and I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to cut a couple of strips here to go inside between the pages to finish that off. So I'm going to let those dry now. Okay, so the pages are in. Now you will see that they kind of pop up a little bit, and this one I did get on a little bit crooked, so I apologize for that, but I pulled it and it seems to work okay. Off camera, I did cut from a scrap of paper strips to fit in. It's going to depend on what spacing you use, so this is not in your cutting guide, but mine I cut 2 pieces 8 inches long, and this one's just a little under 1/2 inch, and then this one was 7/8 of an inch, so right there. Now then, this pocket here kind of flops down sometimes, so you have to be careful with that. It's not too bad, but if you don't want it to bend, you need to make sure. So where I'm at right now is for decorating. I'm not going to do that on camera. I'm going to decorate. I'm going to come back, kind of show you what I've done. I'm thinking this lays well like that, so you don't have to have a tie closure unless you just want to. I have plenty of ribbon, so I may wrap one on, attach it here on the spine with something. That's part of the decorating. So I'm going to be decorating off camera, as I said, and then I will come back and do a quick show what I did at the end of the video, and then there'll probably be a separate showcase walkthrough video of this. So stay tuned, and I'll be back in a little bit after I've done the decorating. I forgot to remind you, in addition to the ribbon that I got in my design team package here, this gingham red check, I did have the die, and I am going to make a windmill out of this silver mirror paper here that I got in my kit, design team package. And then also I'm using this 28 Lilac Lane Buttons and Galore embellishment kit. And this one was called, what did I say it was called? Gratitude, because I thought the colors were perfect. So I have different things in here. I won't be using it all, but the buttons and stuff I think will work really well. So that's what I'm going to be using to decorate with. Just wanted to share that with you so that you would know what I'm using. Here's the finished and decorated album. I kept the front nice and flat in case I decide to make a box for it with a window opening here on the front. So what I did is I left the paper, of course, plain. I did fussy cut out this element here and glue this on, and I did use throughout the project this Tim Holtz that I had purchased from Country Craft Creations label stickers. I used them throughout the album. So this one says Be Authentic. I used one of the flat pearls from the little elements here that I got in the 19 package. And then from the silver mirror paper, I die cut this windmill, and I just love how that looks, and I glued that on. Here on the spine, I added a piece of paper in the center to kind of decorate that up, and added this wrapped through ribbon and tied it here and tied it in a knot. So if I do put it in a box, this would be a pull. And I left the black back plain except for this one label piece that I fussy cut out, and if I want to add a date or something on that, so I do that. So inside, open it real quick. I added buttons here, this element here. Here's the label. This is just scallop punched out of the paper and circle punched, and of course this I left all plain like what I'd already done. This I just added a label. We have the pull up. I did do some paper layering from scraps. I made this scallop pull here, remember this, and I just added different mats and things in here. It's just scraps of paper that I glued in like that. I glued this tag here from the paper, fussy cut this flower, make today count. I punched out another windmill and just used it like a tag back here. Lots of different tags and things, whatever's left from your scraps to tuck in your pocket. I'll do more details in the showcase walkthrough album. Here is the barn that I added. I added a circle here and a mat. This flips up this way, and of course a tag here I made out of scrap paper. That tucks into the pocket, and then this one has a button. Use your wings. Again, all this is the waterfall here, and button here, another label. Lots of paper scraps that I cut into tags, photo mats tucked in here with a paper clip, and then a label here. Added a layer here on with one of the borders to make a mini belly band here, and then the main one here. Folded two of these cut aparts together to make a booklet. Added a label, and then this in here, added a label, and let's see, I think I did make a tag here with a scrap of paper. It's a booklet type. Got the circle here on the top so that you can use it as a pull. That just slides in there. On this tag, I did a scallop punch with some other pattern paper and a circle, and made a pull tab that just inserts this tag into this little pocket here. And of course this flips down. Just like that. And up. And then we have the final element here in the inside cover. And I did the same treatment here with the scallop punch, added some buttons, and then this just pulls down. I left this all plain as I did in the video. So that's the album completed. I want to thank you so much for watching my tutorial. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because I will have some more projects coming out. I'll have a few more with this beautiful paper collection. Shop countrycraftcreations.com for your scrapbooking supplies, and I'll leave a link to the products that I use down below that are still available in the store, and I'll have something more for you later. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.